Are you overwhelmed by the chaos of running your online course business? Have you ever wondered how you could save time, stay organized, and provide a world-class experience for your students without burning out? Today's guest has built a reputation on helping business owners do just that. Jordan Gill, also known as the Systems Saved Me expert, is here to share how setting up the right systems can transform your course business and give you the freedom to focus on what truly matters. If you've ever felt like you're drowning in to-dos or find yourself manually doing the same things over and over again, this episode is for you. You're listening to the Online Course Show, where we bring you the insights and strategies to build a thriving online course business. I'm Jacques Hopkins, and over the past 11 years, I've built a successful online course business teaching piano that's brought in over $4 million. Stick around. This episode might be just the systems boost that your business needs. All right, today's episode is all about systems and Jordan Gill's story. Jordan is the founder of Systems Saved Me and is an absolute genius when it comes to creating workflows that free up your time while elevating your business. In this conversation, we go over many things. We go over why systems are crucial for every course creator at every stage of their journey, how to automate your onboarding process for a seamless student experience, the common mistakes people make when setting up systems and how to avoid those mistakes, and plenty more talk about systems and why they're so important and how you can implement them and stick to them, saving you time and stress. Let's jump in. Hello, Jordan Gill. Welcome to the Online Course Show.
Hi, Jacques. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Nerd out.
Let's nerd out. Let's start by nerding out, hopefully. What's the definition of a system?
My simple definition of a system is just a chronological set of steps toward a goal. That's it. That's all we got. And so if you think of systems, routines, workouts, regimens, it's certain steps at certain times toward a goal.
Why are they so important?
They are incredibly important because as we all are getting busier and busier, I don't see too many people who are like, oh yeah, like things are just, frolicking on by. As we get busier and busier, we are going to start to notice either a fatigue mentally or physically or emotionally, or we are going to start to lose out or miss out on certain steps in the process. And that's going to cause us to ultimately forget things or miss out on things that were important to us. And so systems allow for us to show up and not have to be so mental about what we have to do or when we have to do it. Systems allow for us to really show up and be more present in our lives and in our businesses, which is why I'm so obsessed with them.
You think that this is more important for people that are more established in their business versus people just starting out, or is it just as important?
For the people just starting out, I would say that it is a little less important. And the reason for that is because if you build a system for, let's say you start on the path of this one service or course, and then you don't actually like it, and then you want to move to a different course or a different offering, then if you had spent a ton of time setting up the systems for service one or offer one, now you got to do it all over again for the next one. And so I kind of like to wait until you feel somewhat settled, at least in the direction that you're going. You know that you enjoy it. You know that you're going to be doing it for a while, and then take the time to really, nestle into your systems. So that way you're not just constantly creating systems. It does take time, right? I'm not here to just say you just like whip it up in 2 seconds. So you want to do it for the things that you know you're going to be doing for a while. And that is something that you're going to be focused on, and that you want to get that return of time and efficiency.
I'll be honest with you, I'm a little intimidated because I love systems. We have a lot of systems, but it's not necessarily we're not great at it, and I'm probably a little ignorant when it comes to systems compared to somebody like yourself. So one of the problems that I find is that we'll set up a system and we'll feel really good about it, but then like once you actually put it into place, maybe it doesn't go as smoothly as you expected. And then it's just like, screw the system, it doesn't work, right? How do you keep it to where it's
Mhm.
somewhat flexible to where it does work no matter what you do?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. So when it comes to a system, right? A lot of people think of system and they think of like software. They're like, okay, I'm going to go, and in their mind, they're like, what's the most expensive software? Let me just get the most expensive one because then it will solve all my problems. Please don't. Yeah, because most people don't need the big kahuna software and they sell it as like the all in ones and we can just do everything for you. Again, as a systems person, it sounds really enticing. However, I found that a lot of times those things aren't necessarily as like just zip it up and it's slick and clean as they sound. When choosing, when you're creating your system, you do have to choose software that is a lot of times going to have to integrate or connect with different software and whatnot. And so that I feel like is one of the biggest things that I look for when I'm putting together my system, because if there's, two software that are having to talk to each other and then there's like a manual step in there that I have to remember, forget about it. This is not, even as a systems person, I'm not going to do it. So what I look for when I'm building a system is how can it do things without me as much as possible. Either I am the domino, push at the beginning, or it's going to ping me at the end and say, hey, do this last thing. That's all I can do. Anything that I've got to do in the middle to like make things work, that's where, again, it can get sticky. So even if you are like, okay, this is going to be really great and I'm going to remember and I'm going to see the task in Asana and I'm going to see this, I don't want to say no, you're not, but also no, you're not. Because we're busy. Like we have so many things. We have lives, we have health, we have all these things going on. And so we can think that the system is going to be the best thing and also know that there may be nuances that you maybe didn't think about or a step that you just forgot needed to happen, and giving yourself the grace that, okay, you just have to, tuck it in at the end. But a lot of times what you're talking about, what I see happening is people choosing software that doesn't talk to each other. And that's why the system can't be as streamlined and efficient as it possibly can, because there's like these little steps in between that you're having to like remember or be reminded of. And let's be honest, we don't want to do all that minutia anyway.
I think it would be helpful for some people to get the full context of what we're talking about when we say systems. Like, can you give a specific example of a system, whether it's one that you highly value in your business or one you commonly help other people implement, or maybe, and you can pick which route you want to go, or maybe it's like one that like every course creator should have this system. Can you give us a specific example?
Yes. So onboarding. That is what I consider when somebody purchases, like they've literally already sent you the money. And then there's a list of things that has to happen when people are buying a course. I'm going to give an example and then I'll say kind of how you can think about setting your own up. So, for example, I had a mentorship that also had some course material attached to it. And so my mentorship was in Slack and my course materials were in Samcart. So they purchased in Samcart, which is just a payment processing software where people put their credit card information. So they bought it through Samcart. And then there was a series of tasks happening afterwards. The first one was they got an email from me automatically that gave them the login information for the course and the link to join the Slack community. And so that was it. Because again, if you send, here's 17 things you have to do in this email, bye. Nobody wants to do 17 things. People barely even want to do one thing. So I only gave them two things: log into the course and click this so that you can create your profile in Slack. So then what happened is when they logged into Slack, they actually automatically got a DM from me. It was automated. I did not type this. Well, I typed the original one. And it said, hey, I see that you made it in here. Awesome sauce. First things first, I need you to fill out this quick survey so that I can send your welcome gift and, again, just get some initial information about who you are, where you're trying to go. And so they would fill out that information. And then at the end of that, when they submitted it, it was all within Slack. Uh, two things happened. One, I got sent the survey in a channel in Slack. So Slack has different chats, if you will. So in a private chat of mine, Slack sent me the actual answers. So I had them filed for me. And then secondly, another automated message from me said, "Hey, thanks so much for filling this out. Here's a link to choose your welcome gift." Because I use a really cool, what is it? I guess it's a software called Goody. And it's where you give them a budget of $25, $50, $100 or whatever, and they get to spend it and choose the gift that they want to be sent to them. And so they get the link, they automatically go through there, and then Goody also automatically sends to their mailing address, and all of that is done. So then if they sign up at 3 a.m., I'm not awake, most likely. So, but I want them to have a welcoming experience of the process, right? So again, even on the Samcart side, there's the initial welcome video and then some different things. So they're getting, I would say, handheld and welcomed throughout that entire process. Instead of just saying, click these links and see you later, there's stuff that they're getting. So I know Pat Flynn does, or he used to do anyway. He used to do, I think, Bonjoro videos for every person that had bought his course back in the day, where when somebody signed up, I think his executive assistant gave him a list of names of who signed up for what course, and he would sit there and send Bonjoro videos to every person. Now, that's highly personalized. You can create an automated version of that as well. But the point being that systems don't have to be robotic. They are under the surface, but how you build the systems can be really warm, can be really inviting, can be really surprise and delight. And so don't think it's just super robotic and weird. It's about connection. And as a systems person, I've been in business 8 years. I have yet to have a single email, not a single email that I can remember, that ever said, "Jordan, your systems feel robotic." And that's coming from a systems person. And I have things pretty dialed in over here. So thinking about, how do I want people to feel when they're coming into my course? How do I want them to, walk in and feel like they're in the right place? How can I make it really easy and step by step for them to get access to what they need, or to point them in the right direction, or share an intro post, or whatever the things are? Those are the really, really important things that may seem like, who cares? They'll figure it out. But at the same time, no one likes to feel dumb, or no one likes to feel like they've just literally just been dropped into something and they weren't given any instructions. So you want to be able to meet them there, but not at the point where at 3 a.m. I'm getting a ping and I'm having to film a video. It's nah, how can I do that where no matter what time they're joining, they're getting the same experience across the board?
Glad you brought up Pat Flynn and Bonjoro. I signed up for his podcasting course in 2017 when I started this podcast, and I got a Bonjoro from him, and I was absolutely blown away. I know him personally now. He's been on the podcast, but for him to call me out by name was, and I watched it a couple of times. I'm like, did he really record that just for me? And I'm like, he could just record a bunch of those and use a bunch of common names. But my name's Jacques, right? I was like, he clearly recorded that for me. And I was so blown away that I started using Bonjoro immediately, and I've used it ever since. I've sent out over 5,000 Bonjoros.
Oh my gosh.
And that is part of my process.
Cool.
So I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
What about contingencies in the system? Like the one you brought up, for example, what if somebody doesn't fill out the survey? How far should we take contingencies for if things don't go by as planned?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, the survey aspect in Slack is there's a timer of, okay, if they don't fill it out within, I think I have it on 24 hours. Then I'll send a reminder and just say, "Hey, bumping this up. I know, life happens. Maybe the Amazon man came and dropped off a package. Please fill out the survey so I can get things rocking and rolling and we can get started as soon as possible." So there's opportunities for that automated follow-up as well. And I actually do this in my sales process as well. So even from selling the course perspective, so I use Kit. And so if somebody in my email list clicks a link to a sales page, but then they don't even try to check out, right? So there's abandoned cart sequences that people talk about, which is where someone starts to fill out the checkout information, but then they back away. A lot of times you can gather that information and follow up with them. So this is for if they click a link in your, email. So Kit knows, Susie Q clicked this link, and then they get put into a sequence or automation technically in Kit, and it says, okay, if within, I think it's again 3 hours maybe, if in 3 hours this person clicked the link, does not become a customer by getting tagged, this customer tag, then follow up with them. And so I'll do 3 follow-up emails, and they're really cheeky and silly. And again, with systems, you can kind of be I'm very meta with it, of just my Kit robot told me that you were checking out my sales page, but you didn't get the course. What's up with that? Maybe life got, caught in the way, but here's a link again, just to make it super easy for you. So I have a 3, what I called abandoned site visit email sequence that, again, I'm not sending those emails at 1:00 in the morning, 7 p.m., 2 p.m. I have those things already automated. So that way and it helps with sales every single time. I'm always this is so simple. Why does this work so well? But it does, because people need the nudges. Again, I've got phones dinging. I've got kids screaming. I've got whatever's going on. And so I need those reminders. So I don't think of it as oh my gosh, I'm being annoying. I see it as being helpful. And again, I have yet to have anybody, probably because I'm just really kooky with it and I've got gifts and all sorts of stuff, but I have yet to have anybody be oh my gosh, you're annoying me. It's not coming from this place of you have to purchase, right? It's coming from a warm place that's silly and helpful, right? Coming from that lens. So, there's, I think there's room for contingencies, and thinking through those, you probably could think of, I don't even know, so many of them. But what are the most important ones, right? Them getting to fill out the survey is very important. I'm not going to start mentoring you until I get the survey. So you, you can just keep paying me, I guess, and we never get mentorship. But there's an incentive for them to get that survey done, because I'm not going to talk to you until you get the survey done. And then on the flip side, on sales, contingencies are, hey, they got to the sales page, but they didn't purchase. That's a lost opportunity. So the contingency is, well, I need to follow up with them and see if they're still interested, or if they were just going to get their card and then decided to start dinner. Whatever the thing is, I want to be able to think through those as much as possible and automate as much of those as possible.
You mentioned a welcome gift when people sign up. That's not something I come across too often. I think the service you mentioned was Goody. Is that good IE? Is that how it's spelled?
Good, and then Y.
And then Y? So what kinds of things are you sending to people?
Oh my gosh. So what I like about Goody is it's not they get a pen with the System Save Me logo on it or something. Okay. It's they're getting there'll be fluffy slippers, or I actually received a goodie from a Facebook ads person I was working with, and I was obsessed with it because I have this really strange, specific love and adoration for olive oil, and no one would know that off the top, but it's just, I enjoy it, and I'm very particular about it. So she sent me this link, and I'm browsing. Okay, there's some stuff, and there was olive oil on there, a brand that I was wanting to try. And so I was oh my gosh, I am so excited. Immediately, that was what I put in the basket, and that's what I got. And so it allows for that to be a really good experience versus okay, I'm going to get, and I also have a lot of dietary restrictions. So when people send cookies, I can't eat those. When they send ice cream, I have gluten, dairy, egg allergies. So it's tough for most people, and understandably. So I would rather have the choice and get something like the olive oil that I'm going to be obsessed with and I'm going to remember and talk about on this podcast, versus a cookie that I had to, give to a niece or something because I can't eat it, right? So, yeah, I'm obsessed with Goody. They have all sorts of really, again, like, why is there olive oil in there? I don't know, for people like me. But they have a lot of different options, and you can like set your budget, which is cool. So like the client doesn't really know what your budget is. They just see all of these goodies and they're like, oh my gosh, I get to choose. So I think there's like 25, 50, 100, and then it like goes up from there. But honestly, like the $25 and $50 gifts are like great. My olive oil was probably under the $25 gift. So like I was happy as a clam.
Do these things that they get have your logo on them, or just
No, but there's like a card that it comes with, and I can say like a personalized message. So it just comes in like a regular box of sorts, from what I remember anyway.
Oh,
Just
I
like a
love
white
that. That's
a white box.
amazing. I'm definitely gonna look into that.
Yeah, definitely. It's fun.
What would you say are some common mistakes that people make when they're trying to set up good systems?
Mm. Oh, wow. Yeah, that could be the rest of the podcast. So one is lovingly. One is that again, they try to go all the way. Like you're trying, like you see the like images of the funnel maps and the 62 emails and like all that stuff. And people just are like, I'm going to go, like, if I'm going to do a system, I'm going to go all the way. And it's like, well, let's start with like what is necessary and then, build upon that. And so instead of trying to do a 62 email sequence or something, like let's just try and do like a 7-day and then add another 7 days and then add another, like stack versus just try to sprint and like do the most. So I would say I do. And then a lot of times people get frustrated by the time they're at email 3 because they see I've only done 3 out of 62 and now I'm pissed and now I don't want to do it anymore. So there's not enough opportunity for momentum there, especially if you're not a systems person. I would geek out about a 62 email sequence, but if you're, somebody who is just wanting to get the ball rolling and start the process of this automation and systems, don't feel like you have to do the most, again, complicated or in-depth system for starting out. I would look at those small opportunities. So like, I mentioned, it's like, are you making sure they're getting access to the course that they have? Like, are you, setting up the abandoned site visit email? You could do one email. You don't have to do 3 like me. Just even one email is going to help you there. And so my suggestion for people are, where are the gaps, the smaller gaps that you can fill, and then worry about, kind of building from there. And what I consider a smaller gap are, again, where are their expectations that either I know I can't meet, which is I'm not going to sit at my computer and make sure everybody gets access to their course when they purchase, or what are things that are going to help me with more sales that then I don't have to do the heavy lifting for, abandoned site cart, follow-ups on Instagram DMs, different things. So those are where I encourage people to start because I see that mistake of doing too much. And then I would say the second one is, again, like setting up a system where there's like manual stuff in the middle that, again, most likely is going to get lost. So like, for example, I had it was more of a group program than a course, but there were homeworks that people had to do and that my coaches would then do Loom video um, feedback for. And so we had it all set up in an Airtable base. Airtable is basically like Google Sheets, but on steroids. So when a coach received a homework, it got added to their ClickUp at the time, ClickUp board. So they didn't have to go searching for it. It just plopped into their ClickUp board. They would open it, they would do the Loom video, and then they were able to actually just add the URL of the Loom and hit done. And what would happen is then in ClickUp would go communicate to Airtable, hit submit, and then Airtable would actually send an email to the client that was already set up from a template saying, hey, Shannon, Coach Susie Q just did your feedback. Here's the link to it. Go watch and let us know if you have any more questions. Right. So I'm not having my coach have to go, okay, now I got to go to Airtable, open up the homework, do this thing. I got to write this email. Where's the girl's email? Oh, I spelled it wrong. Now I got to go. All of that. We're not going to do any of that. Like, all I want is my coach to open up the homework, record, get the URL, and hit submit on the task and click up. That is going to be more helpful, right? Than, again, just having to check 7 different places to do things. So again, that's, I would say, a generally more complicated one because it has to do with like homework and lots of different software. But my sentiment is the same of like, how many manual steps are there in the middle that you aren't as set up for success as you could be, and finding out ways that you could integrate and automate as much as possible.
Like I said earlier, I do highly value systems and we have a lot and we use a lot, but I do feel like we could be doing a lot better. And I'm constantly thinking about improvements to our systems that we need that we don't have. As somebody who is the systems person, like, do you feel like that too? Or do you feel like it's just all super dialed in?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely, I'm my biggest critic. But I apply the same principles of like, hey, we're stacking. So what are the phases? How are we going to, keep up with the momentum, but not in an overwhelming way? And so I try to give myself the patience and grace that I give everybody else. And it can be hard if people are like, oh, you're the systems person, and like a system breaks, right? Or something happens and there's like some sort of mishap, then I try to be very upfront about I didn't get the special badge or pass where systems are always going to work. Like, unfortunately, even though I preach them from the rooftops, that's just not how it works. And so, I think that people a lot of time, at least in my experience, have grace and understand. So, are they going to, come at you with pitchforks so they don't get access to the course right away? I don't know, sometimes. But, as long as you just try to anticipate as much as possible and just always put yourself in that shoe of like, okay, like, what would I want if I purchase something and I don't get an email or like any sort of something within the first 5-10 minutes? How would I feel about that? And how do I want my people to feel? So I try to at least keep that in mind with a lot of things. And two, like, all the razzle dazzle stuff, like, it's cool, it's fun. I like to nerd out on it, but it's a lot of time, it's not necessary. Like, I see people definitely overdoing it where it's just like, again, they send an email initially that has like easily 8 or 9 things for somebody to do. And it's just like, I know there's well intentions there. I know that there's desire for it to be succinct and simple, but that right there is going to be overwhelming for anybody to see something that they have to do 8 things for. Even if they're fun things, that's a lot. That's a lot of an ask. So how can you create a way for it to be more of a journey? So sending 2 things. And then, like I said, it's like I sent the email, they click it, they go to Slack, and Slack, they get a message. So there's like a path versus just like feeling like you're just going to kind of dump it on everybody. So grace, lots of grace.
Speaking of questions that could take the rest of the podcast, I want to ask you how you got into this, how you became the systems person. One thing that people struggle with that listen to this more on the beginning side is exactly what to niche down into in my business, right? How did you become the systems person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought everyone was a systems person, so that was my naivete. I thought everyone was geeking out over, post-its and color coding and all of that stuff. But I learned uh, getting into like college and then, the work world, I was like, oh no, everybody's doing, I don't know what they're doing, but this is the way that my brain works. Like, even to the point of where my husband and bonus son and I, we have a charger system, meaning that I have white chargers, like as in phone chargers, because there was a whole you're stealing my charger situation that like I would have my chargers where they were supposed to be and then they would be gone. And so I had to figure out who was stealing my chargers. And so I set up the chargers where I have the white ones, my husband's got the black ones, and my bonus son Colin has the gray ones. And so I would see Colin with a white charger. And I would be like, interesting, you know? So I'm like that person. And it's funny and it's silly and it's whatever, but I've just always been that way. Like I like to know where all of my stuff is constantly. Um and I didn't recognize that at first, but the job that I had before I went to entrepreneurship, my boss at the time actually like saw that in me, and I was her head of content. So I worked for a gal named Melanie Duncan back in 2014, 2016. And her husband ran this like 8-figure online business empire. And I was their first employee. I was their head of content. And it was such a cool job, so amazing. And I have a journalism background as well. So how I approach content and all that stuff is in a very structured way. And so I would basically be like structuring the content for then Melanie to record and help her with the webinar scripting and help her with all of that stuff. And then she just noticed how systematized I was. Little neurotic, but very systematized. And she was like, "Can you just like build systems? Like just all of them?" And I was like, "Probably." So what she did then was we kind of had our like set courses. And so then she kind of moved me around into different departments. So I went to, and we built a membership and I built out that whole system and like logistics and all that stuff. So that was a little more on the techie side. And then I brought in and hired a manager for the membership, and they just had to follow the systems that I had built. And then I went to customer support, did the same thing. Like, how can we reduce, response times and all that sort of stuff. And so build that system, brought in a manager to come in and manage the inbox. And so it really took somebody else recognizing that about myself as a specialty for me to actually be like, oh, like this actually is a thing. Like this is something that's unique and something that not everybody can do or does do. And so therefore I can even have this as a way to help people. So I think a lot of times we think it has to come from this like deep part of our soul. And that wasn't the case for me. It was definitely someone else being able to point out and recognize that I do things that are really helpful for other people that not a lot of other people do. And so even if you just like ask or even notice what people are commending you for or saying you do really well, like take note of that. Because again, I would say more times than not, people aren't just like, fluffing you up. They're actually recognizing something that you're clearly not seeing or not giving as much credit to. So yeah, mine was some, my boss at the time sharing that with me and then allowing me to flex it across multiple departments. And then I was just like, okay, this is what I want to do. I just want to geek out and be at my computer and play around and see how I can automate stuff.
Hey, it's Jacques jumping in real quick with a special message, especially if you've been resonating with all this talk about systems. If you're ready to not only set up better systems in your business, but also scale your online course business to the next level, my Next Level coaching program is the perfect fit for you. This is for course creators who are already making at least around $5,000 a month and are ready to implement the strategies and systems that will help them scale to consistent 5- and 6-figure months. In Next Level Coaching, we'll work together to do several things. We'll help you identify the right systems to automate your processes and save you time, refine your sales funnels and marketing strategies for maximum growth, and make sure you're building a business that supports your goals without overwhelming you. Helping course creators implement the systems they need to grow and streamline their business is a big focus in Next Level Coaching. So if that sounds like what you need, head over to oc.show/nextlevel to learn more and to potentially apply. All right, back to that conversation with Jordan. Are you familiar with the Enneagram?
I am.
Are you a 1?
I am a 1.
You are a 1. Yes.
I'm pretty, like everyone can pretty much pin me as a 1, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a 1. I'm a 1 as well. And that's one reason I like systems so much too. And when I was looking to hire somebody to help me with systems in my business a few years ago, that's actually one thing I was looking for was somebody that was also a 1 on the Enneagram, because I think that's probably your best systems people.
Totally.
So my next question would be, like, obviously it comes natural for you, like that you were naturally good at systems and noticing when a system needed to be in place.
Yeah.
How do you help people that are not naturally good at this, like not 1s, especially the people that are like 4s and 7s? Like, opposite from ones in this respect.
I do. Well, I married a 7, so there's that. Life is very exciting. And I have a few friends that are 4s. And yeah, very, very different. And awesome and delightful. So for me, I definitely am a very observant person. And so a lot of times, again, like I'm a big fan of like, okay, are you flicking the domino at the top or are you catching something at the end? Like I try to avoid as much manual stuff in the middle as I possibly can. So for the 4s and 7s, yeah, they are not going to pay attention to any of that. As far as like if they have to do anything manual in the middle. But, I like speaking of like my husband, like I have to literally put a big post-it on our dining room wall that he passes every day with bullet points of like what has to be done. Same thing with my bonus son. Like he has his own post-it with the bullet list of things. So if they don't see it, it won't get done. So I go where they see something, which is is the dining room, which is right next to the fridge. So they can't say they didn't see it. And they're able to then follow the system and follow the path. So I say if there's, again, a flick of the domino that needs to happen, I'll say, okay, well, where are you already looking? Is it somewhere where it's like, okay, we just like, that you're going to go on Instagram every day. Like we need to just create an automated DM that sends you, hey, don't forget to flick this domino, versus trying to get them into a project management software because, again, they're usually in text or Voxer or Instagram DMs or somewhere that is not their project management. And so how do you meet them where they're at and let them know that things still have to get done, but that I'll meet you where you are and make it as easy as possible for you to flick the domino.
So going back to your story, you were working for this other person and implemented their systems. Tell me about starting your own business. How did the business you have today start?
Yeah, so that was in 2016. And like I said, I was in online space for 2 years before that. And that was really helpful, right? It's different doing your own business versus being inserted into like an 8-figure, giant monstrosity. But it it was definitely helpful for me to have that understanding before going out on my own, right? So I definitely don't want it to sound like, okay, you just like frolicked into this. So for me, I really enjoy my job. And, for me, it's a God thing. And God was just like, it's time for you to go. And I'm like, interesting. So, but, you know, when those things happen, it's like, okay, I need to follow that. So pretty much just decided, okay, I'm going to put in my 6 weeks because we were about to go into a launch and I'll figure it out. I had no Instagram at the time. I had no business. I had no nothing. It was just like time to go and apparently just like leap off a cliff. And in those 6 weeks, I was able to secure about $12,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Now, what how that happened was that I'd been going to events and things like that and connecting with people for 2 years prior to that happening, where I'm building relationships and I'm creating friendships and I'm going to events, I'm learning stuff. And so I'm huge on the power of relationships. I'm huge on community and who you're connected with because, again, what is the power of relationship if you can't lean on them when you need support? Like if you only can come to those people when things are hunky dory, exciting, whatever, then it's like, okay, well, those are nice and we may have some of those, but you really want the friendships and the depths when it's like, okay, no, I'm literally about to like be jobless here in a hot second. So what were you doing? And so I went to a few friends of mine who I had met at events and said, hey, obviously, this is what I'm good at. This is what I've been doing. Do you know anyone who needs this problem solved? And so really grateful that I was able to secure 4 clients and get some retainers under my belt to start my business. So day one, I had $12,000 in the bank account, which is wild and such a blessing. And, then 5 months later, I wanted to burn it all down, right? It's never just like, la, 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 right? The entrepreneurship journey. But in month 5, I had 3 out of the 4 of my clients launch in September of 2016. And they all are 7-figure entrepreneurs. They all were doing big things. And I am someone who struggles with 3 chronic illnesses, which is also why I'm a big proponent on systems. And so the chronic illnesses are celiac disease, chronic fatigue, and hypothyroidism. And so I don't have endless amounts of energy. I don't have even a probably normal amount of energy. So I need my systems to show up for me because I can't show up as much as like a typical person. So, when all 3 of those people were launching, my health went to absolute crap. And I was like, this is not sustainable. So I reduced my client load to 2 and then decided, okay, I need to figure out what I want to do or how I want to serve people. And I came across VIP days, which really are just like a 1-day offer where it's like I build your system in a day, or I build a, course strategy in a day, or whatever in a day. And I think I got my first one December 2016. So within still a calendar year of me starting my business, and then from that point on, it was VIP days. So I would only work with clients 4 days a month, every month, and then I would have the rest of the month for just marketing or going to events or resting or taking care of my health. So that was truly a great um, experience for me as somebody who had to figure out a way that I could work, serve clients, make money, but not in the typical way, because monthly retainers were really, really draining for me. So to be able to show up and like be all the energy and be focused and then go rest and have a 4-day weekend, like it was definitely the best case scenario for me.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the health stuff. I've heard you say before that that's one of the reasons you named the business what you did, because
Yep,
systems literally saved you, right?
literally.
That's
Literally.
amazing.
Yeah.
So you transitioned from these monthly retainers to more of these VIP days. That's not a concept I'm very familiar with. Tell me more about how the VIP day works. It's somebody hires you, like you work with them one-on-one for the entire day, or how
Yep.
does it work?
Yep. So my specific VIP days obviously are centered around systems. So I at that time, my target market were seasonal business owners. So think like wedding planners, tax professionals, tutoring companies, anybody who's like semester to semester or on and off seasons. And I would help them during their off season build the systems to make their, next on season really great. So I would go in and do, just a look over of a lot of times their client onboarding and management systems. And then I would just go in and plug the holes and reintegrate for them. And then they go frolic, in the sunset for the next however long. And I liked that because I'm a very focused person. I don't like having to do a little bit of something over a long period of time. I would just rather take a day, hunker down, like batch it and move on. So it really leaned into my strengths of that versus some people are like, I can't sit down or I can't focus for that long period of time. Then VIP days probably would be like your nightmare. But for me, it was really, really helpful because again, I was able to kind of build up my energy for the VIP day, show up, and then kind of go back down into like my rest period for health stuff. So but I mean, after I did all the VIP days for like 3-4 years, people were asking and asking, what are VIP days? How can I do them? All that stuff. So then I did a VIP day group program, just of course, a community of coaching. And that was a wild time. I launched in March 2020. So that March. And literally from that point until October 2022, I had over 500 clients, made over $3 million. It was like the wildest time of my life. It's like, and again, it was one of those things where, I had goals of being able to buy the dream house for me and my family, which I ended up being able to do. And then at that point, I just realized that, I need a little bit slower paced stuff. Like that pace was not sustainable for me. And even with having team members and things like that, it just then becomes team and becomes having to manage the responsibility of a team and emotions and all of the things involved in that. And for me, that's really heavy. I take that really seriously. And so that October 2022, I then decided I wasn't going to continue to do that program anymore. And so then 6 months later, I then let go of my entire team, which was 12 people. It was the hardest, scariest, worst part of business for me. And was the right decision in that moment for me. So, and now, since then I've been able to do digital products and do events and do all sorts of things that feel really good to me, because events basically are like a VIP day, but like in person. It's like, okay, all year you're planning and planning and planning, and then you show up for 2 days and then you're, gone the rest of the time. So events are really fun for me. And then digital products obviously are fun, and courses are fun because I can create the thing and then people can buy it whenever. So what's so crucial about just like business and online business is like, there's so many things you can do and there's so many ways to do it. And if you don't keep tapped into just how you operate and what your strengths are, then that's where the hardship comes, because then you're doing stuff that's against the grain of how you operate. And then it's going to be slow. It's going to be messy. It's going to feel chaotic and all of that stuff. So if you start to feel that spiral going, then take a second, take a beat. And yeah, like making the decision to let go of my 12-person team was not one that I took lightly, and was not like an overnight decision. And, there may be moments where you're facing a big decision. It may not be that one, but a big decision in some way, shape, or form. And it can feel scary because it feels like the scary answer is what you should be doing. But you want to avoid the scary answer. And so just, again, I encourage you, if you want to be in business for a long time, you're going to have to make scary decisions. And a lot of times, if you just trust yourself and bet on yourself, like, you'll always figure it out. That's just the entrepreneurial spirit, in my opinion.
I mentioned earlier that one of the areas that course creators or aspiring course creators struggle with the most is even just picking their niche, and we talked about that. Another area that's a big struggle is audience building, marketing, because you've kind of shifted your offer over the years based on what's going to work really well for you and still work for your clients. But if you have nobody to put those offers in front of, it doesn't matter. And you mentioned in the early days you had done a lot of networking, and that helped you get your first clients.
Mm-hmm.
But you've obviously done more than that over the past 8 years to build up your audience. So for context, let's just say like your email list, like ballpark, how big is your email list?
Yeah, so I'm very protective of my email list. So I think we're at about 8,200 right now, and that's usually where we waver. It'll go up to about 10 or 12, and then like if you're not paying attention to me, then I just slice you off. So I keep it at a very healthy, very engaged around 8,200.
And what like platform would you say you have the most followers on?
Instagram for sure. I think I have about 27,000, but I did a
It,
big slicing of that too. It was at like 32,000, and I sliced it to whatever, 27,000.
is that where most people find you to begin with? Is Instagram?
Usually it's through podcasts like this. It's through, I do speak at events, and whatnot, but a lot of times people share my content and then therefore they find me because I do all sorts of just ridiculousness on Instagram. So, where I try and share helpful tips. And so people share that content. So I would say Instagram is definitely a big part of audience growth for me. And I make it a point to be like, hey, you're on my Instagram, but if you want this free thing or you want to go deeper, get on my email list. And I use a platform called ManyChat for that. And so it allows for, if someone comments a certain word on a post, then they automatically, again, clearly all about automation, they automatically get a DM from me that says, hey, you want this free thing? Give me your email and I'll send it to you. And so what's interesting about this year, data wise, is I've actually made more money on my Instagram this year, or like attributed from my Instagram. And but there's people are buying more of like the higher ticket stuff of mine through my email list. So it's like the volume is there on Instagram, right? And more people from a quantity perspective are purchasing, but people on my email list, there's fewer of them purchasing, but they're purchasing at higher price points. And before that, it was pretty much all email list that was buyers. Like my Instagram was like, I don't know, 10, 15% maybe of my where my revenue was coming from. And now it's like 60, 65%. which is fascinating. But I think that there's a lot of things about social media that have shifted in good or bad ways. But I would say because I nurture my Instagram a lot, and I have a lot of the automations doing that for me, and I respond when people DM me, or I respond back to comments. That's really where people are like, "Oh my gosh, you have like 700 comments on this thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's because one, I actually like comment back, whether it's automated through ManyChat or it's me personally. People don't just a lot of times people will have 5 comments on a post and they won't respond because it's like, oh, it's only 5 people. But those like that builds, right? And then they'll keep commenting on things, and then those a couple more people will comment and a couple more. And so I would say Instagram is definitely the place. And I actually have Instagram insurance, funny enough. That's how important it is to me. Because yeah, it's obviously a big source of revenue. So I want to make sure it's protected. I
Okay.
know
I
it's like
want
a
to ask you
questionable
about
look.
that in just a second. But let me first touch on this. So, talking about marketing, getting eyeballs on you, discovering you the first time. You mentioned your Instagram. Obviously, you mentioned getting featured on other podcasts like this. You mentioned speaking gigs. You didn't mention your podcast,
Yes, I didn't.
which I know. I mean, you've done more episodes of your podcast than I have of this one. Why didn't you
Mhm.
mention your podcast there?
Yeah, so my podcast is more of a networking tool for me than it is an audience builder. Now, does it nurture my audience? I would say yes. But it's way more for showcasing my network or people that I want to be in my network than it is for sales. So, and it's mainly an interview show. I've done a few like kind of seasons where I've done solo episodes and made some revenue through that. But I actually like for it to be a platform that I get to kind of like give back or use as a way for me to connect with people that I want to connect to. So it's just a different, I'm not saying you can't, obviously, because that's not true. For me, I am intentional about it being a networking tool for me and not necessarily a audience growth thing or even a revenue driver for me.
Reason I asked is because if you would ask me the same question, I would have said by far and away it's the podcast. Like that's how
Yeah.
everybody finds me is through this podcast, not through I mean, I have other channels. I've got an Instagram, not as many followers as you,
You got good
YouTube
SEO.
channel.
The online course,
What's that?
the online course show SEO for like if someone's typing
Yeah.
in online course, that's what because when I typed in the show, I mean, you're who pops up, which is great. Like on
Yeah, I
anything.
mean, the way people find the podcast is they go to their podcast app and type in online courses, and hopefully I'm showing up first there, or they hear me on other podcasts. And my call to action when I'm featured on other podcasts is always hey, go listen to my podcast
Mm,
because they're already podcast listeners.
yeah.
So since we're talking about the podcast, like,
hmm
why should give us the pitch? Why should somebody go listen to your podcast?
Well, for me, my podcast is just again, if you want to hear a range of systems and maybe my systems are again feel like too like okay, Jordan, you're like waving your nerd flag too much. I have a range of people on my show that are not systems experts by any means, but that do have systems in their business. And so if you're like, I want to hear from different people and how they're using systems and how they navigate success and all of that, that's really what my show is about, is to show kind of the I guess width of systems. And so instead of just hearing from, again, my one perspective, I love to showcase again like different systems for different folks, like based on enneagrams and based on different personality types and all of that. Like, that's really the basis of the show is, everyone can find a system on the show that they would be able to implement because there's such a wide, I mean, yeah, like over 400 episodes at this point. So, it's been awesome and I love it. And, the I like to really share my platform because I think that I'm not the one seer and one, guru of systems. I know my systems, I enjoy them, I love sharing them, but I also love to hear how other people are doing them so that way more people can get them and embrace them because it may not just necessarily be like my message that resonates.
That's just called System Save Me,
Yep.
same as the brand name.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay,
which also is good SEO because anytime anyone types in systems, I am the top one.
amazing.
Yeah.
All right, guys, go check out the podcast. System saved me. Let's talk about Instagram. How for selling digital products, what's the for that being the ultimate goal for helping people and selling them digital products? What's the Jordan Gill strategy and systems on Instagram?
Oh, yes. So I actually just pulled all my data from Instagram recently, and so this is right on time. And I was wanting to look at what my top highly commented, because that matters to me, and then also highly shared, because shares are really big on Instagram. Like that seems to be the metric that really pushes you forward. So if your content is relatable, like, oh my gosh, yes, that's me. Like I did a reel about like, okay, point of view, like I'm having to re-explain what I do in my business for the holidays, which is timely and relatable for, when we're having this conversation. And so a bunch of people were sharing that because they're like, yep, here we go again. Like, and I'm like, I want it to be relatable. So they'll share it with other people. Same thing with a reel I did about biz besties, and tagging your biz bestie or sharing with your biz bestie. That gets shared a lot. And so those are two things that if you really want to go, far and wide with Instagram, looking at comments and shares. So for me, how I think about relatable content that is going to get more shares, I think of what are some of the things that my people are going through that are in the vein of what I talk about, but aren't necessarily like on the education side. They're more on the like inner thoughts or experiences that they're having, right? And so if I want a lot of shares, which is great for Instagram growth, then that's the direction I go. Now, comments is a little bit different in the sense of I am usually sharing some like behind the scenes or helpful things that I'm doing in my business that then people want to be able to do in their own businesses. So carousels are doing really well right now. And so I've been really leaning into those that will get a lot of comments because if they want, Instagram is not meant for you to obviously build a system from, right? It's not like YouTube makes more sense for that because you're like looking at my screen and you can like walk through it. But for Instagram, like you kind of have to like get more information because not all of it is going to be able to be shared. And so what's cool is I can give a teaser and then say, hey, if you want the whole kit and caboodle, type the word, data or whatever. And that automated DM is going to get sent to inside their DM messages. They'll click that. And then they either can sign up through, a typical like freebie page, landing page, squeeze page, whatever they're called. Or ManyChat also can have it where you ask them for their email in the actual DM. They type it in there, and then there's an automation that gets sent to your kit or your active campaign or wherever you have your people. And so that mix really works well for me. And I have also found I don't do a ton of talk to camera. Again, energy management there. Like it's like that is a lot of energy for me to put up on Instagram. So I do a lot of like B-roll, which is those like videos where it's just like sitting at my desk or I'm walking or I'm cooking or I'm talking to people at an event. And I put some words over it that are, again, relatable in nature or something. And then people are, and for me, everything goes down to context. So, like, for example, I did a carousel where my husband and I were in the Star Wars ride at Disney World. And we both had like really big eyes, and that was the picture. And so I did a carousel about a ChatGPT prompt that scared my husband, which was true, but was going to make me a lot of money in 2025. That was the hook, and, the picture behind is me and my husband with big old eyes in the Star Wars Disney World ride. And if I had put a different image that was just like me sitting at my desk or like me walking my dog, that wouldn't resonate as much because where's my husband? My husband was the one that was scared. And how are the expressions contextually supporting the text that I have on the actual carousel or reel. So that's where I see a lot of people missing the mark is like they'll be talking about something, but then the context of the photo or video is like completely off. So context all has to be the same. And that's how you can really nail Instagram. I keep it super simple. I don't spend more than a half hour. If it gets to half hour mark, I'm like out. So it takes me less than a half hour to create anything that I put out on Instagram. And I only do one a day, usually Monday through Friday. And I just don't even care about the weekends. So, I think that's what I encourage a lot of people to do, because again, to do talking reels, you have to script it, you have to show up nice, you have to put a whole thing together and edit it. It's like, oh my gosh, that's like way too much work. I'd much rather just like show, one image or one video with some text and call it a day. And so for course creators, it's like if you have freebies or you sell by a webinar or a sales page or whatever, like having the automation and having people sent to that freebie or sent to that webinar, that could be done every single day on Instagram. Like I've seen people who do that every single day on Instagram, and all they're doing is using Instagram as a traffic builder or audience builder to then get people onto their email list to then, sell their courses and things. So don't feel like you have to like sell directly from Instagram, or it's like my course, my course, my course, my course. You can. And I would say the maybe more productive route would be to talk about, again, the freebies or the webinars or things, and then let your email do the work.
What the heck is Instagram insurance?
So Instagram insurance is if my Instagram gets banned or hacked or any of those things, then I basically get a payout from this insurance company every day until they're able to get my Instagram back. Because again, I have the proof to show how much money I'm making from Instagram on a daily basis. And so that's basically it. So again, I was introduced to it by somebody else who's like similar to me, where, our Instagrams are a big part of our revenue source. And so, I think they have it for Instagram, TikTok, maybe Facebook. I don't think they have it for like LinkedIn or X or any of those. But yeah, so that's the insurance is whatever I paid, like however much for the year based on how many followers I had and based on how much I make from it. And then again, nothing has happened. Thank goodness. Knock on wood. But again, like it's super important to me. I also do some like scraping. So I like will download every quarter, like my follower list. And so again, if something happens, I'm able to just start back up again and start connecting with the people that used to follow me anyway. But yeah, I've seen and heard way too many horror stories of people's YouTubes dropping or Instagrams dropping. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't want to play that game.
But do you mind sharing the company you use for that?
Yeah, it's called Notch, Notch.
Perfect.
The URL is getnotch.com or something. Yeah. It should pop up though if you Google it.
Sounds good.
Mhm.
Okay, so you mentioned kind of the evolution of some of your offers. If somebody's listening to this and they want to get your help, take advantage of some of your programs, like what are you offering today?
Yeah. So right now I'm in my microtool empire, which means I'm basically getting into some like software softly. So a microtool, for example, is I have one right now, List and Like, that's coming out in the next week or two. And it's based on Instagram, and it shows you a list of who your highest engaged followers are. And it allows you to engage only with those people. So instead of going to your main feed and seeing whoever Instagram wants you to see, you actually see the people who are engaging most, so you can continue to nurture them in a more strategic way. It also allows you to like build customized lists or curated feeds of your Instagram. So say I have like podcast hosts that I want to be on. I could add them to a feed and engage with their content. I could have people who all sign up for my freebie on a list that then I can engage with on Instagram. So I just want people to be able to make Instagram more strategic instead of, again, just like following the algorithm and like whatever else is going on. So we just got the approval from Meta recently. And so that's going to be coming out. So I have 6 tools similar to that in different ways. And then, yeah, like I do like strategy sessions or I do different mentorship and things like that if people are really wanting to like go deep and take a splash in my brain. But yeah, I'm really big on innovation as well. Like I don't like to do things that everybody else is doing. So if you have like kooky ideas or like kooky ways of doing things, then I'm definitely the kind of person to like come all up in my DMs and like we'll have a blast, just like voice memoing and talking about what would be cool.
Amazing. Yeah. And I love how simple your website is. I went to systemsaveme.com and then tools right at the top. And that's where the tools are that I
Yeah.
guess you've made, and then also your list of recommended tools as well.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then you've got the offers tab as well for the programs that you have. Pretty
Yeah.
straightforward.
Yeah. I try to make it real simple. I'm allergic to complicated.
Jordan, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today.
Oh, thanks so much, Jacques. I really appreciate it.
That is a wrap for today's episode. I love geeking out on systems. If you couldn't tell, maybe it's not for you, or better said, maybe you don't geek out on it like I do, but I hope you'll give them a shot because I'm sure you could still benefit from them in your business. Remember, systems aren't just about saving time. They're about creating a better experience for both you and your customers. Whether you're building out an onboarding process, automating your communication, or scaling your course business, the right systems can make a world of difference. And if you're ready to take your course business to the next level, I'd love to invite you to check out my Next Level coaching program. It's designed specifically for course creators already making at least $5,000 a month and are looking to scale. In this 12-month mentorship, you'll get personalized guidance, proven strategies, and all the support you need to grow your business without sacrificing your time or your sanity. Head to oc.show/nextlevel to learn more and to apply. For links and resources mentioned in today's episode, head over to oc.show/262 for the show notes. Thanks again for listening, and don't forget to take action on what you heard today. I'm rooting for you.